a major Elden Ring announcement is coming, but
Major Elden Ring announcement coming.
Alright, what's going on, guys? This is a video I've been meaning to make for a little bit, but I wanted to wait until after
I think it's
Christmas
the same
just to
guy
confirm
as the
something.
PvP video.
It is inevitable that we're going to get more of Elden Ring. We recently just had the Colosseum update that I was telling you guys all along was going to come out before the end of the year.
It's so crazy that they brought out the Colosseum update for free. They just said, hey, yeah, by the way, we're bringing this out, and it's free. You can play it right now. There you go.
Yeah.
That was so badass.
Like the PvP enjoyer that I am,
I was a bit
super
disappointed
hyped
with
about that. But there is a
the amount of
reality
maps,
that update did not satisfy the majority of players. And regardless of how you feel about that, the majority of Elden Ring players are here for the PvE. And we have a dilemma.
That's true.
With the recent announcement of Armored Core 6 coming in 2023, we have a large contingent of From Software fans that are feeling a bit disenfranchised by the recent pattern. The players that are not interested in Elden Ring PvP and are also hesitant to get excited for or try Armored Core, today I want to offer you some hope, because
They're
we have
very different
confirmation that
games.
big things are coming, and I'm gonna get you.
I think that, like, whenever you buy a game, like, you can't really buy a game and expect them to make DLC for it. For example, like, Sekiro never got DLC. I think everybody was expecting, like, the Tomoe, like the, you know, character like Ishin talks about, and like the Lightning Girl.
Yeah.
Like, it's like she's referenced in the lore, and everybody thought, like, oh, well, they're gonna do a DLC with her, but like that just never happened. Like, you just because you buy a game doesn't mean you're entitled for them to make more content. I wish it was like that. That'd be great. I'd love to see more Elden Ring content. But if you buy the game, you know, you get what you pay for. I think that's what's fair.
I don't think entitlement is the right word. I think it's hope. It's like, man, this is such a good game. Please give me more of this good game. But, I mean, obviously, entitled people, like, in general, are going to be a thing, whether it's gamers or anything else. Like, so I don't, like, I never like to include them into the conversation, because it's like, there are entitled people across the board, so.
I think that also, like, this is one of the
thing.
outcomes where, like, all these other games are games as a live service, and Elden Ring isn't really a live service game in the same way.
Like, when I worked in the casino, there was a lot of people who just, like, assumed they were entitled to win because they lost whatever amount of money they lost. Like, whatever, like, limit they had. Like, no, I lost this, therefore, I deserve to win, and anyone who wins next to me, like, they just hate them. Because it's like, you didn't deserve that.
And I think people just expect games to function as a live service even whenever they're not.
Up to speed on this really
I think that's
important
true for
news
some.
that went under the radar and what you need to be paying attention to going forward. So as we get into that,
I think especially true for, like, games like Elden Ring that are very open. Like, it's just very normal for developers to have a lot more DLC for open world games.
today, if you want to stay up to date on all the latest news and discussion around From Software, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because the future of this company is looking extremely bright and you're not going to want to miss anything. But with all that, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, it's been a minute since the Game Awards.
The Game Awards. That is so funny.
Everybody knows. Yeah, everybody knows. Like, yeah.
Elden Ring got the recognition it definitely deserved, but we had a lot going on. Personally, I was not expecting them to announce the Colosseums before the Game Awards, but rather at the Game Awards.
I guess this was an old
However,
one? I
we
don't
did still
know.
get somewhat of a mention of Elden Ring DLC. And between
Maybe
Elden
not.
Ring winning Game of the Year and the debacle with the Bill Clinton kid, you may have forgotten about it.
で、このエルデンリングについてもまだやりたいことありますので、その点でも今回の受賞すごく大きな励みになりました。
As for Elden Ring, we still have several more things we want to do. So just getting this Goldie Award really encourage us.
Fucking getting ready
So
for
at
it.
the Game Awards, after receiving the Game of the Year award, Miyazaki confirmed that they're working on several more things for Elden Ring. Now,
That makes sense. I mean, of course, they're probably going to make more stuff for the game. I think that it's actually a good idea for them to move away from making another game that's as good as Elden Ring. I think Elden Ring is one of those games that, like, whenever you make it, you're like, okay, I'm done. That's it. All right, let's go do something else. Like,
Well, no, I mean, he said, like, it's very close to his ideal game, so I actually think it's the opposite. Where now that they have, I'm assuming, like, way more funding for the next game, is, you know, to go for that ideal. I mean, it could be wrong, but, like, to me, it made it makes total sense that they would add DLC to Elden Ring. It is a very big open world. There's a lot of assets that can be used. Again, like they don't have to like make whole new stuff. Just because there is so much stuff that it would be hard to like. You're not going to run into that feeling of, oh, they just used reused assets.
Pretty much like we got it, and we made the best version of it. Maybe we'll make another one later on, but
Best
like let's
version.
just take a break.
It's not the main thing I wanted to talk about, but it does put into context that there is more of this story that they want to tell. And I mean, realistically, if we're being completely honest, that only means one thing: a real full-scale DLC. Now, yes, the
Yeah, I would assume
Colosseums
so.
were technically DLC. However, we all know what you're hoping for: more of the PvE adventure in a full-scale paid DLC. And it looks like that could be coming pretty soon.
I think people want to have harder bosses. A lot of the bosses in Elden Ring, I would argue, except for Moenia, are like really, like maybe it's just because I've played the games a lot, but they're really easy.
If you make them easy, I mean, you can also make it really hard on yourself. Just don't level. Use a normal sword instead of like an OP weapon. Like, I mean, it's like most Dark Souls games, to be fair. Or at least not most, but like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, your knowledge, like, can really help you make the game easy. But then again, you can also make the game really hard, just with like knowing what is good and avoiding that. But I think that is a dumb way, like, of doing difficulty. So
Because if you're signed up to the Bandai Namco email list, then you would have received a note that was really interesting. This email reads, Elden Ring wins Game of the Year. Congratulations to Elden Ring for winning Game of the Year, Best RPG, and Best Art Direction at the Game Awards. It's been an incredible year of gaming, and we thank the Elden Ring community for their love and support of the game thus far. States
I think that it's going to be a situation, like if they add DLC, I hope it's like the Dark Souls 3 DLC. Where
a
like
whole new area.
Gale and Midir, like these are like the hardest bosses in the game. They are, I would say that
I don't think they will. Like, if I'm gonna be just honest, like I understand where Asmon's coming from, but I'm looking at it from like the game developer's end, and I'm just like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense they would do that. Just because Elden Ring is the game that is like their, what's the word I'm looking for? The one that attracted more new players than probably any other FromSoft game. So it's like, I don't think adding a DLC that is for the hardcore player base would be a smart move. I don't know if smart's the right word, but it's like, I just don't see it. Like maybe like a whole new area and like new bosses. The bosses are, should be harder than the normal Elden Ring bosses. And just have ways of making hardcore players make the game harder for themselves would be, to me at least, like the best choice there. That way it doesn't feel like if you're one of the newer players who, Elden Ring is your first Dark Souls type game, where you just don't feel like you can't do anything in the DLC. Like you're getting just stomped because they made it for those who have been playing the game since like Demon Souls.
the DLC bosses, minus like the Ancient Wyvern, are like a large measure of magnitude harder than anything in the base game.
Yeah, and that's what I don't think that was a good idea. From the people who play Dark Souls, like the casual like friends that I know that played it, had the DLC, but only like never beat it, which to me is not a good indicator. Like that's a bad thing. Like you want people to beat your game because it makes them excited to play the next one.
Minus, I don't know. I think Nameless King was pretty hard. I think the Twin Prince.
Because if you can't beat a game, you're not going to be interested in the next one. Just almost a guarantee. Like if you played Dark Souls 1 and rage quitted, you couldn't do it. Like Dark Souls 2 is not going to hold much of an appeal to you.
Are kind of hard, but
And I don't mean it like they should make the games easier. Absolutely not. They're Dark Souls games. But what I mean is not to make it so hard that the people who played Elden Ring, beat Elden Ring, are gonna like run into like Margaret like without preparing. You know what I mean? Like it's just gonna be like you're hitting this crazy wall all of a sudden.
all of those bosses pale in comparison to DLC.
tuned in the days and weeks to come as there is more Elden Ring news that awaits. For those who have yet to experience Elden Ring, there's no better time than now. I had mentioned that email very briefly in one of the last few videos, but I think it's an extremely important piece of news that nobody was really talking about, and there's a lot of context to go along with it. But the obvious standout point of that email was that it said to look out for more Elden Ring news in the days and weeks to come. Now the obvious problem here is that days and weeks
That would be the
literally mean
Gladiator update
anything,
now.
which is why I wanted to wait till after Christmas in case they were planning a
700
Christmas
weeks.
announcement, but clearly that didn't happen. So now we can go into a deep dive on this. The only bit of news that we've seen since the Game Awards relating to Elden Ring is that it has gone on sale in time for the holidays. But let me reassure you that is not what the email was referring to, because in the line directly after that they say now is the best time to hop into the game, which they wouldn't say if their news was that it was going to go on sale a few weeks later, but rather
I mean, you got to remember this is a Japanese company. That could have been just a translation issue, so that's hard to say.
if we compare this to what Miyazaki
Makes
said
sense.
at the Game Awards, clearly this is talking about more in-game content. If it was anybody other than Miyazaki saying that, I wouldn't really be inclined to think that it's a full-scale DLC. However, since it is his creative project, whatever they're working on is likely to have more story implications. But let's put this in context for a little bit. We are obviously coming up on the new year, and with the new year comes a lot of business things. The next quarter for the Japanese fiscal year begins on January 1st, and what that means is that on January 2nd, we're going to get the next investors report for Kadokawa, who is the parent company of From Software. In these
I didn't know
reports, we
that.
typically get a good outlook on what they're planning to do in the next quarter and how they view their performance.
Wait, what? Made in Abyss, Binary Star. Is that a... I know it's an anime, but did they make a game out of it? Or are they like publishers of the anime? I don't know what this is. AI? Something files? I'm assuming? I don't know what that is.
In the last. Now, as we all know,
That's true. And this is the same thing with the Blizzard reports, is that whenever the Activision Blizzard shareholder reports come out, that tells you more about like how the game is going to evolve than anything else. Because those are the guys
is
that
true.
have the money that make the decisions.
Yeah.
Elden Ring contributed a huge deal to Kadokawa's success in 2022. And after we got
No
that
surprise
first
there.
investors
So.
report after the game release and had such monumental success, they were already discussing ways to have more paid content for this game. So what we can expect in this report is a reflection on the recent success at the Game Awards, as well as talk about ways of making more money off of the game based on that success, which is almost a 100% guarantee. And there's
Well, that's definitely true, because like one thing with Elden Ring is such a massive, expansive game that like adding new content to the game, like new weapons or new types of spells or anything like that, like it has a multiplier effect on all of the other content of the game, because now
Yeah.
you can go back and
Replay.
do all of that other stuff with these new items.
Yep, the
several
replay
business
value
reasons
just
of why this would make sense. Of
gets
course, the
higher and
biggest
higher.
main reason of why they need to push out a DLC for Elden Ring is what I was explaining in the intro to this video. Those disenfranchised fans who won't be picking up Armored Core. Now, personally, I'm super excited to try
I think that most people that play Elden Ring and that are fans of From Software will probably play Armored Core. In the same
Really?
way that they played Sekiro. Sekiro
I don't think so, because Sekiro and Dark Souls actually still kind of has that same vibe. Armored Core does not have that like Dark Souls vibe whatsoever. Maybe the new one will. I haven't really seen too much. I'll try to see if I can find some trailers for it. But I'm not into Armored Core. Just I was into those kind of games back in like middle school, high schoolish area. But like since then, haven't really played a single one. Don't really plan to.
was a very big departure
not my
from the way that their previous games had played.
Wait, what do you say?
the intro to this video. Those disenfranchised fans who won't be picking up Armored Core. Now, personally, I'm super excited to try.
I think that most people that play
think
Elden
I
Ring
went
and
too
that are
far back.
fans of From Software will probably play Armored Core. In the same way that they played Sekiro. Sekiro was a very big departure from the way that their previous games had played.
It played, yes, but not how it looked. And that's going to be the thing. Like, a lot of people get their games based on how they look, not really too much how they play, because you don't really know until you're actually playing it. And even Sekiro doesn't feel that big of a difference until like a few bosses into the game. and then it really hits you like, wow, this is like a super parry like game. Like you really, really have to be into parrying to be good at Sekiro. So yeah, I mean I don't think it's a good comparison.
And most of them went and they played it. Like, and this is kind of like, this is what happened with Blizzard back.
Because it's even the case where I didn't even know Armored Core was like made, I'm assuming made by the same people making Elden Ring. Like I'll give it a try after finding that out, but I did not know that.
In a day, is that Blizzard had such a good reputation that anything that Blizzard made, people would try it out. If Blizzard made an MMO, people...
CD Projekt Red is a great example. After The Witcher 3, almost anything they made after would have sold well, but unfortunately they really messed up Cyberpunk, unfortunately.
People tried it out. Whenever they made Heroes of the Storm, people tried that out. I think people have faith in the developer to make a good game, and I think that having a good game is even more important than having the same genre. Sekiro is still similar, Armored Core is not.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
I never played the original Armored Cores, so I would probably say, yeah, you're probably right from like what I've seen, is that, yeah, Armored Core is different, is more different than Sekiro is, but I do think Sekiro is a different game. It is a fundamentally different game, and I think people all bought that one too. All I'm saying is that I think there's a lot of people that are fans of the development studio, and any game that they put out that is a good game, they're going to buy it regardless of like what the specific genre of it is.
Yeah.
Something that isn't a Souls game from Software. However, even based off the video performance on my channel, I can tell there's a lot of y'all that just aren't interested in Armored Core. And that's something they're going to have to make clear to the investors. Armored Core simply is not going to capitalize off the success of Elden Ring. Now, I know Miyazaki and From Software...
To a degree
I don't think that it will in the same way that like for example, if they brought out Dark Souls 4 after this, I think that Dark Souls 4 would obviously capitalize way more off of it than
Elden Ring 2.
Armored Core would. But I still do think, obviously, Elden Ring being successful and the studio being successful, like pretty much every single time they bring something out, that does contribute to it. Absolutely.
Only care about making games they're passionate about, and that's almost definitely the reason their games are so good in the first place. But the investors are a different animal. They're gonna want a capitalization, one that's going to supplement the lower sales of Armored Core. But then we gotta think about timing, because the next fiscal...
That is a good point, that they would probably, like, yeah, if they're gonna make Armored Core might sell less than Elden Ring, so maybe they'll bring out more Elden Ring DLC to supplement that. Because that's kind of what happened with Dark Souls 2. Is that Dark Souls 2 had like, what was it, 2 or 3 big DLCs? It wasn't just like one thing. So it got changed a lot. Yeah, it was 3? Yeah, I thought it was 3. I knew it was at least 2.
Year doesn't start until April. The chances that Armored Core gets released in the next fiscal year is almost a certainty. I simply can't see that they would release this in the same fiscal year that Elden Ring has blown way past expectations. But if we follow that logic, then that would mean that DLC would also have to release in that fiscal year. I was wondering why he was putting and so my theory on when I think Armored Core is going to release will be later in the year. Since we didn't get a release date with this trailer, only the year 2023. And so if we build off that, April sounds like a good time for the paid Elden Ring DLC to release. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that that feels a little bit far off. But as for the announcement, it'll definitely be...
I think that the reason why a lot of people are in kind of like a content drought that are big fans of Elden Ring is that there aren't a lot of mods out for Elden Ring. And like, I think that's different than what a lot of people were used to with Dark Souls 3. Is that Dark Souls 3 had so many different mods to it.
Yeah, but those mods also took a while to come out. It's not like they all instantly just popped out. Like Elden Ring, I think, is going to get there, but it's going to take a while.
That people could go back and play different versions of the game. Like you could go play, you know, the Cinders mod, the Hollow mod, the Convergence mod, and I think those were the 3 main big ones. So as soon as Elden Ring starts seeing more mods come out, I remember seeing the Convergence mod team made actually a tweet recently about like, you know, their development and like their progress on an Elden Ring mod for Convergence. So I think whenever that comes out, that will definitely be a good stopgap for a lot.
Elden Ring is a much bigger game than the previous Dark Souls as well, so that might be why it might take a bit longer.
A lot of people, especially people that are like hardcore fans of the game.
pretty soon. We have some key dates coming up. Right now is a pretty bad time to make a gaming announcement. November and December are usually super busy, the time when everybody's marketing their games for the holidays, when the most consumer eyes are on the advertising. But once Christmas and the holidays actually hit, most companies end up waiting until after Lunar New Year on January 22nd to make any major announcements. With that being said though, From Software has a tendency to just shadow drop things.
To be fair though, I think games in general shouldn't have to worry about that. Just because gamers are going to get, if it's a good game, gamers are going to buy it no matter what time of the year it comes out. I think holidays, it makes sense because you can get it as a gift, but other than that,
reason of prediction, which has happened before. But we also have the 1-year anniversary of Elden Ring's release on February 25th. However, I think the term days and weeks to come doesn't mean that long. But either way, your eyes should be looking out for an
days and weeks makes me think that it's 2 to 5 weeks.
Announcement very soon. But here's what we need to keep in mind. Since Elden Ring won Game of the Year, that guarantees something pretty big. That Elden Ring is going to be remarketed as Game of the Year Edition. And if they're making paid DLC, then they're probably going to wait until after that releases to market that game so that they can include it in the bundle.
That's a really good point. I never thought of that. That's really smart.
I simply cannot imagine.
Yeah. All right. How to get the door. Let me...
DLC, then they're probably going to wait until after that releases to market that game so that they can include it in the bundle.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I never thought of that. That's really smart.
I simply cannot imagine.
I think they did that with Dark Souls 2, if I'm not mistaken, with one of the DLCs.
That won't be something that's demanded by the investors. And realistically, here's what I think is going on. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think DLC was ever planned for Elden Ring. Aside from the Colosseums, I think they left the idea as a possibility.
I think most games do that, where it's not really planned, but if the game does well enough, why not do DLC with it? Like, leave it open for that option.
On how much unexplored lore and cut content that we have. However, after the
I wouldn't be surprised if they also had DLC planned.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised, and I don't think it's a big... I think it's something that they might not have really planned for, but they'd still probably want to do because of just how expansive they made the game.
Extreme and unexpected success of the game, they are now forced into a position
where
they have
a lot more opportunities for DLC in Elden Ring than the previous ones.
After winning Game of the Year, they are likely now scrambling to make a trailer for the DLC so that they can announce it, or at least announce that it's coming as a way of saying thank you. But either way, I'm very excited for the next few weeks. I know there's some people that have been kind of down because they don't like PvP or Armored Core. Rest assured, exactly what you want is coming. They have much more planned for Elden Ring, and although we don't have a specific date yet, all we have to do is just sit back and let them cook, follow the context clues, and await their official announcement.
I think that's really the truth, is that people that get impatient about that, like, chill the fuck out, man. Think about how long it took for Elden Ring to come out. Like, Elden Ring got announced, and then they just went silent for like a year and a half. And then a little bit after that, it came out, and that was it. So it'll come out when it comes out.
When it's ready.
That investment report is definitely going to have some details, and I will be covering that for you guys on January 2nd.
Curious about that.
So make sure you're subscribed.
And that's why I said they weren't scrambling. From Software just
for the video today.
Takes their time to
and if you did, be sure to
do
leave
things
a like
right.
Let me know down below, what do you think days and weeks to come means? Personally, I'm not exactly sure what to make of it. But with all that, subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you in the next one.
That was
probably just optimistic.
Some good insight too. I'm going to link you guys this. Yeah, we've watched one or two of his videos before from like Elden Ring stuff, and yeah, I think this is very, very insightful, especially with like the fucking the earnings report and all of that. I thought Elden Ring was announced. They didn't say anything for like 3 years. Yeah, they didn't like Elden Ring got announced. I remember looking at this. I reacted to the first Elden Ring video when
I think the only announcement I recall while Elden Ring was in production was that they were going to work with J.R.R. Martin, and that's about it.
whenever it was classic WoW beta. So this is like early 2019. So it was nuts how long ago it was, man. Will you cover any
Yeah.
Wayfinder game content? Yeah. Actually, the developers of that game reached out to me. I didn't follow up with them because this was like there was like some other bullshit going on at the time. But I probably need to do that in the next couple of days and kind of see where they're at.
That'd be pretty cool. Wayfinder.
And so yeah, that's
I'm
the
definitely
way I
looking
feel
forward to
that
that
way
one.
about it. Like I mean, I'm excited about that game too. But I just want to talk about Elden Ring right now. Is that I think they're going to have DLC for Elden Ring because the game was so massively successful. I think the
just
DLC
makes
is not
sense.
going to be as transformative as, let's say, the Lost Hunters or the Old Hunters DLC for Bloodborne was. It's probably not going to be on that level. It's probably just going to be a lot harder bosses. I would say somewhere like
I'd be
if it's as
disappointed if
good
that's all
as the
they're
Dark
doing.
Souls 3 DLC, I will be very happy. And I don't
Yeah, I was going to say, like, a whole new area, some new bosses. I don't really care if they're harder or not. Just more Elden Ring.
think that there's ever been DLC that was like fundamentally bad. Like with Dark Souls 2, the DLC is the saving grace of the game. With Dark Souls 1, it had I mean fuck bro, it had Artorias, it had what's that? The dragon does the Calamity Ring. Fuck. I can't believe I can't think of its name.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah, Calamite. Yeah, there you go, Calamite. And then Manus. I
Calamite.
didn't like the Manus fight, but like the whole
It's been too long since I played Dark Souls 1. I probably should replay that.
the aesthetic of
So
it
I
was fucking
don't really
amazing. The
remember
Ulusil area.
most
Dark
things.
Souls 2, obviously, 3 different DLCs, massively successful, best things about the game. And then with Dark Souls 3, you had the DLC with that too. I was thinking actually about Bloodborne, and I don't remember this because I never used this weapon. Is the whirligig weapon from the DLC or not? That's like the chainsaw type thing.
His chat says yes, but honestly,
It's
I don't
from the
remember.
DLC. I thought it was. I just didn't want to go out and say that. Think about how many people got that weapon and then replayed the game because of that weapon. And think about how many
pizza
people
cutter.
got the dual greatsword, the twin greatswords, from Dark Souls 3 and replayed the game because of that.
Exactly.
So that's what the potential of Elden Ring DLC has.
To be fair, Elden Ring, though, is like way bigger. Like, unless the weapon can really fundamentally change the build, I don't think that's going to be enough for a lot of people to replay all of Elden Ring.
Is that it has a
It's a much
potential
bigger
of
game.
multiplying the content in the game for people that are already playing it by creating transformative weapons. So I'm really excited. I hope it's going to be fucking awesome. As you guys know, I have played a lot of these games, and so I'm very
Okay. I was hearing like this weird static.
happy to see any of them come out. Yeah, Fume Knight as well. Like Fume Knight, I think Fume Knight was DLC too. I'm like 90% sure Fume Knight was DLC. I'm like 95% sure it was DLC. And let's see. Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, and like that had a cool weapon too. Suge Knight? No, that guy's in jail or something. Pull Bethesda
I don't really know
release
what
the
the
game
butt
every year. I mean, as long
is
as the game
for.
has new content, I don't really give a fuck.
But Armored
man.
Core isn't
Yeah,
going to do as
hopefully
well.
not as
Like,
many
I'm not
times
sure
as
why he
Skyrim,
added that
though,
to the
let's
video.
be honest.
Yeah, I mean, a major announcement. I think when I think after playing it, like you just knew like this game's gonna blow up. Like it's way too good not to blow up. And then it winning Game of the Year. So it's like I don't know. I would honestly I would have been really surprised if they didn't release anything like any DLC because they did it for Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 and Bloodborne. So it's like Sekiro was like the only one they didn't. But that could be just because of how difficult it was. Not many people even beat it. Therefore, DLC wouldn't have done as well. I'm assuming. I have no idea. But yeah, it's a good video. I think it was obvious though that something was coming even without reading into any emails or anything like that. But yeah.